Hi, hey, my name's Tim Bartley, and before we work together, I really find it very important for people to understand some things. Mainly how your mind really works, what this process is all about, what to expect. So let's dive into that. I'm just going to give you a working knowledge, okay? First, you don't have one mind, you have three. You have a conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind. I want you to think of these three minds as three completely different people, because they really are. They each have a set of jobs that they do. These three minds, they do interrelate, they do communicate, but not well. Therein lies why we have problems. If we had one mind that worked as one unit, I wouldn't have a job. Okay, you wouldn't need me. So let's get to it. Your conscious mind, what does that do? That's where your short-term memory is. It's analytical, problem solving. It's the thinking part of you. It's where willpower resides. Willpower, people rely on that for change. It doesn't work. Willpower's only function is short-term mental adrenaline toward any goal. Short-term. It's like a thought. Boom. If you keep that thought right in front of your eyes, in the front of your mind all the time, great. You'll do great. But who can do that? Not really anyone. Then there's something, the last part of the conscious mind that I want to discuss here. It's called your critical factor, or your critical facilities. You can think of it as like a comparison mechanism. You have ideas and thoughts coming in from the outside world all the time. They will either be allowed into the subconscious or they will not, depending on the programming running in the subconscious mind. For instance, let's say I just feel like I'm a stupid person. I've always felt like that. If somebody from the outside world comes up and says, "Hey Tim, you're really stupid," well, I can accept that, right? Sure, because that's the programming I'm running on. So that idea, that thought is allowed into my subconscious mind. It becomes a part of me. If somebody comes up and says, "Boy, Tim, you are so smart," this critical factor says, "Wait a minute. Smart, they're saying I'm smart, I'm running on stupid, smart, stupid." That idea is rejected, ultimately. If I had a friend call me for a whole hour, "Hey Tim," on the phone, "You're so smart, look at what you do seminars, you've written a book, you do all these sessions, you help all these people, blah, blah, blah," for a whole hour, and I hang up the phone, I feel pretty good. Hey, maybe I'm not so dumb. But track me down at the end of the week, and guess what? I will have reverted back to that programming. I am a dummy. I'm a stupid person. Okay? So that's important. When you slow your brain waves down into the alpha, theta brainwave states, and I'll talk about that in a moment, what happens then is we get around this critical factor in the conscious mind. This part of the conscious mind that stops change, we're getting around that. Okay? Let's talk about your subconscious mind. That's the part of the mind I want to talk to. It's 2,000% sharper than the dull conscious mind. It doesn't think. That's what the conscious mind does. It's literal. It's reactive. Okay? It's just like a computer running on programs. It's identical to that. So what does it do? It's where your long-term memory is. Actually, every moment of your life has been recorded. A couple of months before you were born, you reached up and you hit the record button. Every single moment, every event has actually been stored. And in session, we can go to any moment in your entire life, which is pretty amazing, really. Also, it's where all of your emotions are. All of your feelings and emotions reside here. It also tries to protect you. Tries to protect the conscious mind. It tries to protect against things that are real, that did happen, and things that aren't real. Sometimes people have problems. I've helped people get over problems that were just a dream when they were like a little kid. Doesn't matter. It impacted them emotionally, even if it wasn't real. Also, it's where all of your habits are, or your patterns of behavior. So it's a wonderful place to work. That's where we're going to be working. Now you have an unconscious mind as well. That's the part of your brain that keeps the body functioning. It governs every part of you physically. It's also a slave to the feelings and emotions in the subconscious mind. This is called the mind-body connection. Now, when I work with people with physical problems, emotional problems, and habitual problems. Now, me being like a mind doctor, so to speak, well, yeah, you can understand that maybe I could help people with emotional problems or habitual problems. But how do we completely clear away some of these physical problems? Well, let me tell you, it's this mind-body connection. Let's say you have the feeling of sadness. That's stored in the subconscious mind. Well, your unconscious mind is a slave to that part of your mind that keeps your body working. What does it do? It produces tears. You start to cry. That's a bodily response to the feeling of sadness. Here's another one. What if you're on the go? You're just, stressed out, just, on the go all the time. That's a feeling. What's the bodily response in the unconscious mind? You might get high blood pressure. Maybe you'll get an ulcer. This is true with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, restless leg syndrome, migraine headaches, all kinds of skin disorders, all kinds of physical things. So when I tell people, oh sure, I could help you with that, it's kind of unbelievable. But that's really what's happening. Now when it comes to feelings and emotions, you might have heard this, time heals all wounds. That is true with your conscious mind. For the subconscious mind, it's the opposite. Time does not heal all wounds. As a matter of fact, as time goes on, that feeling magnifies, it gets bigger. So that's how your mind works. Let me tell you about those brainwave states. Your brain naturally speeds up and slows down, every day. There's 4 brainwave states I want to tell you about. There's beta, alpha, theta, delta. When you're consciously aware, right now, hopefully you're not daydreaming and you're paying attention, you're in the beta brainwave state. Your brainwaves are very fast, tightly knit together. Then your brainwaves can slow down a little bit. They can slow down into alpha. That's like when you're sitting there and you're like at work, but you're daydreaming about being at the beach, something like that. When your brainwaves slow down even more, you go into the theta state. That's kind of like when you drive your car. You reach your destination and you don't know how you got there. Or if you think about reading a book or being engrossed in a great movie and all of a sudden you come back from wherever you were. Or think about those times in class where the professor's talking on and on and on, and all of a sudden you just come back from wherever you were and you're like, wow, did anybody notice I wasn't here for a few minutes? Why that is your brainwaves slowed down. And then just below that is something called delta. You have fallen asleep. That's when the conscious mind has completely shut off. So twice a day, right, when you fall asleep and when you wake up, your brainwaves slow down. Beta, alpha, theta, delta. And you're sleeping. Then when you wake up, nobody wakes up just like that. No, you're in delta and then up to theta, your eyes are open, and then up to alpha, and then beta, and you're wide awake, okay? Your brainwaves slow all the way down to that theta brainwave state about a dozen times a day. That's where I work. I've coined a term for what I do. It's called theta state therapy. I consider myself a theta state therapist because we're working in that brainwave state. Well, why? Why are we working there? I'll tell you why. Because when your brainwaves slow down, at the moment when you slow down into alpha and then theta, instantly you're connected to your subconscious mind, the very powerful computer, that supercomputer. So your brain all of a sudden is like we're tapped into that supercomputer. That's what people that meditate, or musicians, or people that go into prayer for an extended period of time, or inventors, they try to get to this state. Edison, he used to sit on his porch and he'd grab up some metal ball bearings in his hand, and he'd hold his hand over a metal bucket. He'd close his eyes, his hand over the bucket, and then he would close his eyes and try to relax. And he'd train himself to get down into that theta brainwave state. If he went into delta and he fell asleep, his hand would open up. The ball bearings would hit the bucket and wake him up. Well, he came up with some good ideas, didn't he? And have you ever noticed, like in the morning when you get up, when your mind is clear, you're not quite awake, you get some really good ideas? That's because you're connected to that very powerful subconscious mind. Okay? So that's, in a nutshell, how your mind works. Okay? It's important to know that.